and just the communications we've had, I already feel like we're friends. Now, most of you are probably saying like, hey, Chris, we've seen you do a lot of these connection series and you're in a totally different background and environment. So this is actually, I'm in my parents' home in my hometown where I grew up in a real small farming, ranching town. And all these plaques you see on the wall, I have to brag on my dad a little bit, being that this is about families. My dad was a high school basketball coach. And
wow, I didn't know that.
Coached,
awesome.
Yeah, he coached 6 years and they won 6 straight state championships. And at one time, they actually set a national record. They were 75-0. They went 3 seasons without losing a game.
Is that right?
That's incredible. Oh my gosh.
So all these are awards, and like, you know, they named the gym in our little hometown. The gym's called the Stan Smith Gymnasium. They dedicated it to him and named after him. So it's cool. It's like he's a small town basketball legend.
Wow, that's incredible. We love basketball in this family.
That's awesome. Yes, we grew up as a big basketball family, and so, yeah, so, and as well, I'm not showing my 4K camera because it slows down the speed. And we were just lucky to get on here. I'm streaming from my phone. I was telling Dr. Cleopatra and Jair, like, it's a toss of the coin when you come down to this small community if the internet's going to work.
Yes.
So I want to get right into it. I want to give some of your background. I want you guys to tell us more about you. But being that this is the Connection series, and we launched this really to have families be more connected, you know, than they've ever been. Is there something, Dr. Cleopatra and Jair, that you guys would, if you had one piece of advice that we could share real quick to help families be more connected, or something that you guys do in your family that has you be connected? And it could be simple, like a nightly walk, or it can be something more like, what's a piece of advice or something you guys have found that works in your family?
Yes. Well, first, I just want to say it's an honor to be here. It's been so great connecting with you, Chris, and so fun to be here with your community and our community who's here watching too. So I would say we have a lot of family practices. We're super intentional about our family culture. The overarching theme is that we live the love every single day, and that we are incredibly appreciative and we stay really hungry at the same time. We
Dr. Cleopatra, was that we live to love, or we live the love every single day?
We live the love every single day.
I love that.
We really do, in a super intentional way. And we are so about appreciation and gratitude. And we are so appreciative of everything that we have as a family, and we stay hungry as a family. And we teach our children to be appreciative and stay hungry at the same time, instead of one versus the other, which I think is a really easy trap to fall into. So those are the overarching themes of our family culture. And then I would say one specific thing that we do, and I'm going to let Jair talk about it. It's our family visioning process that we do every year.
Right. So around New Year's, like everyone else, we have a little practice we do, and we collect pictures, because we have a vision every year that we want of how we want our life to be. So we get all these magazines, we cut out photos, and we have a whole kind of a little ceremony where we cut out images and phrases and things of things that are important to us, meaningful things that we're striving for, and we put them all on a poster board. And so then put them up so we can see them every day. So the kids see them, we see them. You know, our kids are young, so does it all land with them? Maybe, maybe not. But regardless, it's there. And at some point, it's going to click. Like, yeah. You know, so
that's awesome.
I think that's very important to us. And to add to what she said, we talk about things a lot. So we really try to include our kids in our conversations about things we're trying to do, and the process that we go through. I think it's important for them to understand that there's a process to things, rather than it's here one day, not here the next, or, you know.
And by the way, those of you watching, when you see me looking down, it's because I'm taking notes. Like, I get notes from every single one of these and go share with my wife, and we implement.
That's cool. That's cool.
So we have our family vision board that we do every single year on New Year's Eve. That's our ritual, and we have it up all year long. We look at it every day. We remind the kids to look at it every day. And we also have them include a couple of images that really speak to them. And it's amazing. We've gotten more and more precise with our family vision boards, and we have a process that we go through leading up to the creation of the family vision board. And now more and more every year at the end of the year, we see that we achieved that family vision board, and it's really powerful.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
That's amazing.
What I think is great too is that, you know, you put up things that seemingly way beyond your reach. Like you don't even know how you're going to get there yet.
Yeah.
And you just put that there, and it's fun. It's exciting.
It's exciting.
It is fun. And what I love about it is, though, is like the key in all of this is there's a culture of intentionality in your home.
Yes.
And that's really like when we looked at family brand and this idea, you know, we took our family through the campfire effect.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting there one day and I told my wife, I was like, we just kind of branded our family like you would a business, or,
yeah,
you know, we just created a family brand. And so then we bought familybrand.com. It was available, but, you know, it was a premium domain. So we had to, you know, negotiate on it.
Yeah.
They wanted a lot of money for it. But, and then it was just like, look, we believe that every family, you know, your family, if you're watching, you can define what it is your family stands for.
Mm-hmm.
You can declare what it is your family is known for.
Yes.
But that comes by doing it intentionally. And we believe it's by creating your family's brand and seeing your family and your last name as a brand. And when you do that, not only will it bless the culture in your home and your family today, but to me, the really exciting thing is that you're laying a foundation that really could impact hundreds or thousands of your posterity. Like that's what, like when you think about that, right? And so,
yes.
So I love this. So we live the love every day. We stay hungry, but yet we're also grateful, right? Because like one of my mentors one time said to me, he said, Chris, the real goal for you in your life is to see your wife and your children as perfect, just as they are.
Yes.
And knowing that they still have room to upgrade.
Yeah.
Like both those things, it can be an and. Because a lot of times we would say, well, if someone has room to upgrade, then they can't be perfect. It's like, no. It's kind of like the same thing with like, you can be super grateful and still be really hungry. Exactly. And I think that idea of hunger, I think one of the greatest gifts we could teach kids is like resourcefulness. Like stay hungry. Like if you want it, you can do it, but it's also your responsibility to go create it.
100. What's the thing you tell the kids every day that things that are within their control? You tell them.
Yeah. I tell the kids there are three things in their life that they have absolute control over: their attitude, their effort, and what they focus on. And that's, I tell them that all the time. Yeah. Attitude, effort, focus. You know, and I think it speaks for itself.
It is, and the accountability that we want to teach them, that, you know, almost radical accountability. Obviously, we all start on a different plane. It's not a level playing field out in the world, and
totally.
We each lost a parent very tragically, very early in life. I lost my mom at birth. Jair lost his dad when he was 11. And we had a very difficult beginning to life, each one of us. And so we are super hungry, and we are so thankful that we have been able to intentionally create a life where our children are very fortunate, and we want them to be aware of their privilege and their good fortune, to savor it, to have appreciation for it, but we never want them to lose the hunger that we have. We want them to, and so that's why that is really a guiding light for us. Like even during this quarantine, our oldest son is 7, and he's an amazing soccer player who we fully expect to become a professional soccer player, already being groomed to go pro. He has so much talent. And we told him, you keep practicing. He's obsessed. He loves practice. He loves playing. He loves practicing, but don't stop being hungry. While if you're sitting here, somebody else is practicing. Keep going. And I mean, we don't put pressure on them, but we want them to know there are people out in the world who are not as fortunate as you are, and they are hungry, and you need to stay hungry too. And that's really, really important to us. But even though we stay hungry, I don't feel any sense of dissatisfaction in my life whatsoever. Like I married my dream man. I have my dream babies. we live our dream life. It's so wonderful. And we still have our family vision board that's way bigger than the life that we're living right now. And I think that is really one of the secret sauce of our family, that we have, that we can hold those two things simultaneously. And it really is my deepest prayer and hope for our children, that they can continue to hold those two things simultaneously as well. And I'll just say one more thing about the intentionality. So my signature method is the Primester protocol, which teaches people how to use the time before pregnancy so intentionally that they can literally change the quality of the genes and the expression of the genes that they're passing down to their children.
Wow.
We use this to overcome fertility challenges, but also for people who don't have fertility challenges, so that they're ready individually and as a couple, and that they get to have their super babies. And so that theme of intentionality is in our family, but it's in everything that I do, because it's the same way that we overcome fertility challenges and help people get pregnant all the time.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so for those of you watching, Dr. Cleopatra is really renowned in the field of fertility, has an amazing institute that she runs. That's how we got connected, through that community of the health, space. Yes. And guys, like, we're a handful of minutes in, and you guys, if you're watching this and you don't start a watch party on your page, you're robbing your friends of an amazing opportunity to hear from these two incredible human beings right here, entrepreneurs, parents. Start a watch party, tag someone. So far we've talked about having a family like theme, kind of like and I'll tell you ours, but their family theme is we live the love every day. Mm-hmm. This theme of like, stay hungry and be grateful. And then one of the things they talked about was family visioning, like having a family vision every single year. We'll talk more about that. So, man, like, please share this, start a watch party. One of the things that, Jair, as you were saying, you talking to your kids, like, hey, here's the things you can't control. Mm-hmm. Are you guys familiar with Viktor Frankl, the book Man's Search for Meaning?
Oh, actually, I am. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a really amazing book. He was in a concentration camp for a number, I think, over a couple of years, and he said everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances.
That's right.
To choose one's own way. Mm-hmm. And it's like true. It's like what you're teaching your kids. It's like, hey, look, anything can be taken from us. Mm-hmm. Like, quarantine, right? Like social, sheltering in place, but no one can take away from us. And I think two things: no one can take away from us our attitude, and no one can take from us our ability to create. Mm-hmm. And so, like, one of our family values is Smiths are creators, and kind of the theme in our home is create or complain. Mm-hmm. And it's just this simple, like, it snaps a lot of us out. Like, my kids will call me out on it. Like, if I'm complaining about something, my kids will be like, Dad, create or complain.
I love it.
All right. We'll take notes on that one.
Choices.
Yeah.
We'll take notes on that one.
My kids are actually, they're going through, my kids are in an entrepreneurship class right now with one of the guests who was on here earlier this week, Scott Donnell. He's starting a company called My First Sale, all around helping kids get their first sale around their own business.
Oh my gosh, that's a great idea.
I know. And so they actually, I wanted them to enroll in it. So they enrolled in Scott's thing. And then they said they had to come up with a business. And so they decided to take Creator Complain and turn it into an apparel business. So they have t-shirts that say like creator on them, create, like creators create. So
that is awesome. I love that. So good.
But there's like what you guys are talking about. There's this language that if we use in our homes, and like Jair, you even said it. It's like, man, I don't know how much my 3-year-old is like. But I'll tell you this, my wife told me the other day that my 3-year-old wanted to help in the kitchen. And it's so funny is like, I hate to say this, but like there's a lot of times where I'm like, I hope and pray my kids don't like want to help in the kitchen.
Because it makes it harder.
Oh my gosh. It's like, I want them to. And at the same time, it's like, it's going to take twice as long. It's going to be like way messier, and like, it's awesome. Right. But like, so our 3-year-old, she is like super feisty, super independent. And she was peeling a sweet potato. And sweet potatoes are way harder to peel than a regular potato.
Yes.
And my wife said that she's over there, like peeling that thing, peeling her heart out, taking forever. And she's like, Smiths do hard things. Smiths do hard things. Smiths do hard things, which is one of our family. So I was like, well, maybe it is like.
That is so cute. Oh my God. I love that. That's so awesome. So
in your family visioning, I want you to talk more about this because we just started this like a few years ago. My wife came and said, she comes up with most of the really brilliant ideas, and then I get credit for them because I'm the one that like does the interviews, but she's the one that actually comes up with the majority of the great stuff. She came to me and she's like, hey, I really don't like the way we do family goal setting every year because, in December, we set all these goals, all these New Year's resolutions. And then by like the second week in January, we've already like fallen off the wagon on all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we feel bad about our, like, why do we subject ourselves to that punishment every year? And she's like, what if we pick 3 words that we wanted to embody for the year?
Yes.
And then created a vision around that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we whittled it down that we just pick 1 word a year. So this year our word is team.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like it becomes this mini brand of like what we focused on that year based on what we thought we really could work on the previous year. And then instead of going to a New Year's Eve party the last 2 years, we did vision board parties on New Year's Eve and had fun food and magazines.
So
it was
good.
like, it was awesome. So we pick a word for the year as a family. Each of us individually pick a word, and then the kids have the vision board. So like, talk about like what advice would you give a family if you were going to encourage them to like, and they could even start one this year. It's not too late, right? It's May.
No.
Like if you haven't done one for this year, what advice would you give to not have it be overwhelming to where like the whole family could be involved? And
it's never too late. We did a roadmap to baby workshop where we basically took the people through the family vision board process or the family visioning process. And it can be really simple. So ours starts with reflecting on the year that is coming to an end and looking at what went really well, what didn't go as well as we hoped it would go, and then really who we want to continue evolving into as individuals and as a family in the year ahead. We do write down some specific goals, but we also write down 2 things that I think are really important, kind of similar to what you do. We don't use a family word, which I really love that idea, but we have a headline.
okay.
That's
cool.
like our theme for the year. And we do this for the Fertility and Pregnancy Institute as well. And then we have one because we have a vision board for the Institute, and then we have our family one. And then so on our family vision board, it's actually a cork board, half cork board and half whiteboard. So the cork board is where we pin up all the images and words, etc. And then on the whiteboard, we have each of our words for the year, and we ask the kids what their word for the year is. So we have a 7, 5, and 2-year-old, and they our 2 boys, the oldest and the youngest, chose soccer for their word. They're obsessed with soccer. And then our daughter chose beautiful. She's obsessed with beauty. It's really interesting seeing that through her eyes. To her, things are not particularly interesting or useful if they're not also beautiful. And that was something that's really different for me. I didn't exactly relate to that, but I'm seeing that in a new way through my daughter's eyes because it's so very important to her, so that's really interesting. So we include their words and we have our own words. And then we also have like 3 specific things to focus on. So like meditation and movement, for example. So we know that those are the things that we want to be doing every day to become more and more, or to achieve our word. So for us, movement and meditation. And we have like a family meditation, we have a really simple meditation that we do that I can show you right now. And it's peace starts with me. And we actually have a longer version of it, but it's just that simple. Peace starts with me.
Love that. So one of the things that I love about what you're saying here is like, if you guys noticed that when I asked Dr. Cleopatra and Jair about their vision board planning process for the year, they didn't say, I noticed, and I'm guessing it's intentional, that they didn't say, we put up all the things we want to do and have. They said, we make a vision of who we're evolving into.
Yes.
And then, and I love the idea of half corkboard, half whiteboard. So what we've done is we've just done the whiteboard, magazine pictures. And then my wife, again, came up with this idea of like, there's hers. In our bedroom, there's hers, mine, and then ours in the middle.
Ooh, I like that.
And so it's like, so yeah, and then the kids have theirs. What I love is I love the half corkboard and half whiteboard, because the reality is too for us. Sometimes our vision evolves throughout the year, and if you had a whiteboard, you could update that, right? Where you might not want to go back and like redo the cork board or stuff like that.
Right.
But you could repin stuff instead of like ours is glued on. So I like that idea. The other thing is a piece of advice that my wife, you know, in the past few years has kind of woke up to this idea of like, hey, I want to find my identity and my calling in addition to being a wife and a mom.
Yes.
And I was like, that's
so
awesome.
Common. So
Yeah.
common.
That is perfect.
And so part of what she woke up to is she loved real estate and real estate investing. So she hired a real estate coach and a mentor that I knew. And you know, my wife's doing awesome with that. But what the real estate mentor told us is my wife and I found ourselves with our vision board planning process. We were kind of just putting up on the vision board things we wanted to do and things we wanted to have. But in reality, when we reflected on it, it's like, well, we were probably going to do and have those things anyways. Like this isn't like stretching at all. And then her mentor around that exact same time said, you know how I do my vision board is I just have an intention around like who I want to be.
Yes.
And then I just start opening magazines and whatever calls to me, it goes on there, whether I even know why it calls to me or not.
That's how we do. Exactly how we do. That's exactly how we do.
This year we did that and it was fun. And so I still have like my kids, there's still a bunch of things on my whiteboard, my kids or my vision board, my kids are like, hey Dad, what is that? I'm like, I don't know. Like,
We'll see.
It just called to me.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, we'll see.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, totally. I completely agree.
And the other thing I want, like, I have to remind myself of this because I have such a like propensity to be intentional, and the number one strength on my Strengths Finder assessment with Gallup is maximizer.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want to maximize everything, and I drive people crazy sometimes with that. But I've got to remember to have fun. And so that's the thing, though, I want families to realize too in family brand, when you're creating your family's brand, your culture, your vision board for the year, is like, yeah, it can be really like the stakes are high. It's our family. It's our, you know, so there's a seriousness to it, but it can also be really, really fun. Like this year, our word is team. And so my wife got like a $10 trophy on Amazon that says Smith Family MVP on it.
Oh, I love that. That's so cute. That's
and
awesome.
each week on Sunday, we all vote on who was the biggest team player in the family that week. And they get the trophy for that week. Now what they don't want though is the trophy. What they want is if you win, you don't have to do 15-minute pickup at night. So one of the things that we also have instituted in our house that has our family work seriously is we do a nightly 15-minute pickup.
I love it.
Because what we used to do is the house would just get bombed, right?
Yes, with so many children, of course. Yeah.
And it's like the MVP is fun. And you know what else is cool about the MVP is like every week someone's in tears. And like part of me is okay with that because I'm like, they're like, I wanted to win the MVP. And I'm like, well, why did the family not vote on you? It's like, well, because I wasn't a team player this week. It's like, yeah, that's a little bit of real life. You know what I mean? Like,
that's actually brilliant.
Yeah,
I love
really
that.
good.
We're going to write that one down too. Yeah. The team player.
But you can have fun. Like, yeah, these are serious, but I want to just, I love it. And I love the 3 specific things.
I think the more we can be more playful with each other and with our children, the better we function as a team, the easier it is to achieve the things that we want to achieve and to become the people we want to become. Like we dance a lot in our family and it's such a fun time for us. It's so great. We connect so much over dancing. And I noticed that I want to dance every day. So you never have to like prompt me to dance, but I noticed that the periods of time where my husband is putting on dance music and dancing more, that everything's just like lighter and flowing more in our house because he's initiating that for us.
That's awesome.
And it's so much fun. And he gets inspired by this man. What's his name? There's this bachelor on Miami Beach who is always like working out and dancing.
There's this Italian guy. He went viral for this dancing thing.
That's awesome.
And
he gets inspired, but when he sees him on Instagram, and I'm like, go watch your dude, whatever his name is. I'm like, so that we can start dancing more again because it's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
One of the things that I love about that, so we haven't launched the official like flagship family brand course yet. It's coming, right? Where families can go through this.
So exciting.
But there's 3 pillars. So we believe that a family's brand is made up of culture, language, and experiences. So culture, a lot of what we've been talking about, language, mission, vision, values, and experiences. And one of the things that we help a family do in the experiences is build their connection blueprint. because what my wife and I realized is we started writing out one day, like, what are all the things that just have our family work? Like when our family's just working really well and humming and kind of smooth and less contention and bickering and like what? And we just started writing these things down and kind of like created like this recipe or these ingredients, right? And then when we looked at it, we were kind of shocked that we're like, these are the things that have our family really work. Why don't we do them more often then?
Yes, 100%.
And it wasn't because they don't have our family really work. It was just because we just hadn't like written it down and made, like put it up on our home to remind ourselves, like simple thing like that. Like, oh man, like when Jair like turns music on in the house and the family dances, it's like, but we only do it like, you know, once a month. Why wouldn't we do that once a week? It's just kind of those types of things where it's like it's identified. And the other cool thing was we asked families to do is, so just start writing down all the things as your family work, but then also every family kind of can identify a period of time in their family's life when their family was working better than it had ever worked. Maybe it was a year ago, maybe it was 5 years ago, maybe it was last week. And then we asked people to reflect on what was present in your family's life and what wasn't present. And people will be like, wow, when our family was just working, we were doing this and we've completely stopped doing that, or we weren't doing this and now that's in our lives. So it's just kind of, but I love hearing that. It's like, yeah, when we dance, when we do these things. And I would just encourage, if you're watching this, that's something you could actually start right now. Like, and so many people, the thing I keep telling people that are watching our Family Brand Connection series, and a lot of them are saying, when's the flagship course coming out? When's the course coming out? And I'm like, it's coming, but every single one of these interviews, there's things that you're getting from people like, create your vision board for the year. Like start working on
now. It doesn't matter that it's May, what is it, 16th, because there's still more than half of 2020 left. That's a lot of time to help shape the future that you're going to have. And remember, the life that we live today is the result of thoughts and choices that we had and made and actions that we took years ago. And so that's what we want to do for our future. We don't want to be on the defensive. We want to be on the offensive. We want to be just like when we make our babies, we want to be proactive about the babies we're making. And it's so it doesn't matter that it's May. It's the perfect time to do your family vision board. And I'll just say, so we actually have branded our family, not like it necessarily intentionally branded our family, but we call ourselves the Brainy Brawny Bunch, because we always say, like, you know, when a scientist and a fitness expert come together, they make these brainy brawny babies. And that's what we call ourselves, the Brainy Brawny Bunch. And I love that. And we are the Brainy Brawny Bunch. I mean, I think when you do the trimester, like our pediatrician, every time we go is like, how did you get not just one, not just two, but three of these who are so physically advanced and so verbally advanced at the same time? Usually you get one or the other if you're lucky, and and it's true. I mean, they are brainy, brawny humans. I'm so thankful for that. And so are we. Yeah.
That's awesome. That leads into actually something I wanted to talk about, because I know that you have, like, at least the sense I get, Dr. Cleopatra, from reading everything about you and what you and I have connected on, is that for you, hey, Homer, Lisa, welcome. We have some people saying hey on the Facebook Live.
Hi, everybody. So good to be here with you. We're hoping you're enjoying this and getting a lot out of it.
Yes, and if you guys have questions, please ask.
Yes.
So one of the things that I have a sense of with you, Dr. Cleopatra, is that this idea of fertility and pregnancy isn't just about like, oh, checking that we got another family pregnant. It's like, you see the generational impact of this and like passing health on to generations. And
100%.
So one of the things that we do under so culture and language experiences, those are the three pillars we're going to walk a family through. The last piece of culture is what we call roots.
Oh, nice. I love it.
There's a really big growing body of research out there that not a lot of families are familiar with, that actually the research shows that the more children know about their heritage and their ancestry and their generations before them, it is one of the greatest indicators of a child's future well-being and sense of identity. And I was like, that's a bold statement. Like, one of the greatest indicators of a child's well-being and future identity is how much they know about their ancestors and their heritage and then their ability to pass that on. And the reason that rang so true to me the first time I read that is 10 years ago when my wife and I were separated, gonna get divorced. We had 2 beautiful little boys at the time. Now we have 5 beautiful children.
Yes. Thank God you didn't.
Yeah, I was at the, and Family Brand was, was a huge culmination of that struggle we had. And, I was the lowest point in my life personally. Felt like a failure as a husband, as a father, as an entrepreneur, had a couple failing businesses, owed people money and all this pressure. We'd made the decision to not be separated anymore. Mm-hmm. And so things were better, but I joked that they were like 51-49 better. Like it wasn't like, they weren't like, beautiful. And my great grandmother had given me a family history book when I was a teenager. Oh. And I had never opened it because like as a teenager, I'm like, I don't want to read about family history and these old people, right? Like I don't. And somehow I kept that book. I lose everything. And somehow I kept that book all those years. And I'm sitting in my office one night and I'm still in this struggle. And I pull that book off the shelf and just something just tells me like, start reading it. And I start reading about my great grandfather who came over to this country not knowing the language and then like built something out of nothing. I read about my great grandmother, Ann Patton Peterson, who served so many families and delivered like 300 babies in the 1800s just out of service and wasn't even an official midwife. And I start,
that's amazing. I love her.
And what occurs to me, and then I read about the guy I'm named after, Christopher Layton. My name's Christopher. He started 3 towns. He made some money in the gold rush and bought a ship and took it back to England and paid for the voyage of 250 families. And when I read that book that night, Jair and Dr. Cleopatra, I was like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
Like these amazing like creators, like hear this, like in this point in my life, I'm like, I just feel like I'm just, just a screw up that's like failing in everything in my life. And I read these stories and I'm like, these are my family. Mm-hmm. So it's like, so now what we've done is, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Coco.
Yes. And we love it. That's like one of our favorites in our house. Yeah.
So we've taken this to an extreme with our family history and our ancestors, but for everyone, like, so our family mission, our family vision, our 5 family values, we've linked it to the story of an ancestor that our kids know, and we've created an ofrenda in our living room with their pictures. So we have our great grandmother, Ann Patton Peterson, my wife's great grandma, Dicey May, Caleb Clark Baldwin, Christopher Layton, and our kids know like, oh, Smiths do hard things. That's Caleb Clark Baldwin. Smiths are creators. That's Christopher Layton. We believe you can be who you want to be. That's Dicey May Smith. So this idea of generations and heritage and like the impact, I just don't think we realize that like we are passing on a culture and a legacy and values. The question is, are we doing it by default or are we doing it intentionally? Right. We're passing in something on. Like there's a culture in your home. Like when people tell me like, well, Chris, the problem is we just haven't created the culture. I'm like, well, you have. It just, maybe it's been by default. So will you talk about like that aspect to you of like the importance of like this generational aspect of family?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So the first thing I'll say is that the reason why what you call roots is so important is because it gives us a sense of belonging. Mm-hmm. And the sense of belonging is one of the most important things in the world for a human being, especially for young people and at critical developmental phases, adolescence, young adulthood, when it's easy to lose your footing and take the wrong path or be influenced by the wrong people. When you have a strong sense of, and it's interesting that you said that, because I think this is the perfect example. We each had very, very rocky starts to life. And I'm one of 5 children, and he is an only child on his mom's side. He has lots of half siblings, but he was raised alone. I think that because I have so many siblings, and because my siblings and I were are super committed to one another, and took responsibility for one another, even when we didn't have to, that I had a sense of belonging. So even when it would have been easy for me to lose my way, I didn't lose my way because I had a sense of belonging. Whereas I think it was very easy for my husband to lose his way because he didn't have a strong sense of belonging. That sense of belonging is everything, and it will carry you. It is the thing. You don't go to college with your children, but that sense of belonging goes to college with them. Mm-hmm. It will keep them making the right decisions. Remember who you are. We always tell our children, that we're Canpervanes, not Cantpervanes. You know, our last name is Campervane, and we say we are Canpervanes. And
I love that.
You know, they're just like things that they remember when we're not with them. Obviously, we're with them all the time now, but you know, as they grow and they spend more time away from us. Yeah. Do you want to say something more about?
Well, no, I think you nailed it. I certainly, when I was younger, I was completely, you know, I just moved to this country, and I'd lived in a few other countries, and the language was new, people were new. It was the first time I was 9 years old. It was the first time that I became aware that I was even a color, because that never crossed my mind before moving to the States. And, you know, you had to choose in that time which group you're going to belong to, and all the stuff that kids go through. And
totally.
I went off. I took a hard left. It took me a while to make my way back, you know?
And I think that anybody out there who has a moment like you had, Chris, where you feel like you failed as a man, as a husband, as a father, and as an entrepreneur, or is afraid to embark on parenthood because they feel like, oh my God, I don't even have my own shit together. I hope it's okay to say that. I can't even keep myself together.
Yeah.
How am I going to take care of somebody else? How am I going to raise somebody else into a man or a woman? I just want to say that, you know, when there's something that when you have children and you love someone more than you've loved anything before, and more than you even knew was possible to love, your perspective changes. We teach about this. We call it mommy mindedness or parent mindedness, but suddenly your preferences and priorities and values are so much more clear, and all of the noise just falls away. The way you spend your time and your energy and your attention becomes more and more important. And so it becomes more and more deliberate. And I think that I just want to say that my husband is the perfect example of how becoming a husband and a father can really transform you, and you can trust yourself, and you don't have to be afraid. He was already an amazing man when I met him and I married him. Obviously, I knew he was my husband and the father of my children right away. And I have seen my husband grow into like this super dad, and with each baby more and more. And I assure you that anybody who knew my husband 20 years ago, and even 10 years ago, we've now been together for 9, married for 8, would never have believed that he was capable of this. And he's such an incredible dad. Really,
awesome.
when people are watching and when no one's watching, I feel so much appreciation to have a husband. And it's true.
Well, I think it's a lot to do with what you were talking about, in that it's taking an active role. Like, you're either going to, you have that role, whether you chose it or not, you're there.
Right.
So if you're going to do it, then do it well. You know, like I always tell my kids now, and they don't understand it yet. I was like, look, you can do anything you want to do. I will support you, all the things you love doing. But the things you do, I want you to be excellent. I want you to be well in the things you choose, because really your life will be richer. You'll have freedoms to, you know, you'll have joy and fulfillment. And
another way that it said is when our son lost a 1v1 or something, and he was really upset, and my husband said to him, yeah, it feels bad to lose, so win next time.
It's like, hey, you don't want to feel, if you don't want to, you don't like the feeling of losing, then don't lose, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's true.
So a couple of the turning points for me that I want to speak to on that was like, so I had the amazing belief of my wife when I was struggling this time. She never stopped believing in me, never stopped holding space for me. Amazing marriage counselor. Yep. Also reading that family history book and being like, it gave me that sense of belonging. But then I read Darren Hardy's book, The Compound Effect, and I honestly can't tell you anything about that book, but the one thing I got out of it, and I stopped reading it when I got it out of it, which is all I needed, I guess, was it was the first time in my life I remember consciously taking 100% responsibility for everything in my life. Like,
it's hard,
just like, dude, It's
Yeah.
it's not my wife's fault. It's not my parents' fault. It's not the economy's fault. It's not like it is 100. And that's when I really woke up to this idea that like I'm the author of my story.
Mm-hmm.
And that was humbling and inspiring. Humbling because it was like, well, if I'm the author, then gosh dang, I've kind of like I've authored all of this in my life that I don't like. But if I'm the author, I can pick up the pen, and pick up the pen became a mantra for me. On my home office, it's a plaque that hangs that says "Pick up the pen."
Love it.
It's like, look, pick up the pen. You can write a new story and live into that. And so, one of the things I love teaching, and that I think if we could teach kids is that, like to Jair, your point, hey, look, you can create anything you want. That's why one of our family values is Smiths are creators.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, but we also know that they all. I hope that my kids know that behind that, yeah, you can create anything you want, and then it's almost like, and you're 100% responsible to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like both, right? It's like I'll support you in it, but it's like when you start to realize those two things of like, wow, I can create anything, and I get to be the one that like does it.
Yes. Well, it's very intimidating for people at first, that concept of, things don't happen to you. They happen because of you, or for however you'd like to word. And I think that can be very intimidating at first, but if you really start to think about it, it's so empowering.
Exactly.
It's so
That's exactly
powerful.
right.
Like, oh, wait a second. I actually,
Mm-hmm.
choices I make, things I do, when I work with clients and they ask me things about, oh, how do I, it's hard to make the choice to do this or to do that. And I often ask them, ask yourself in that moment, do I want to make the ordinary choice or the extraordinary choice? That's a personal thing, what extraordinary is. It's not a subjective. I mean, it is a subjective thing. It's not an objective thing. And, in that moment, you have a choice. And,
So true.
Totally. And that's kind of like, my wife and I found ourselves in a period of time there right before we launched Family Brand. Just, and then there's nothing wrong with this. So I'm going to preface it. There's nothing wrong with this. And we found ourselves just vegging out every night, watching, TV series. And like, and there's a certain amount of that for me is healthy, but we were definitely taking it to an extreme of like staying up way too late, getting up early. And then my wife just was like, we talked about it one day, and just this thought we kept telling ourselves is like, look, common people don't do uncommon things, and uncommon people don't do common things. And it was just like,
exactly.
And again, there's no judgment in that towards anyone else. That was just something that served us.
It's true. It's true. We live by that too. That's why. I mean, I think that's part of the, if you don't like the feeling of losing, don't figure out how to win, work at it. So yeah, exactly.
Okay.
We
So
feel
if you guys are watching this, you have to start a watch party. Like, this has been amazing. so far, now tell me how to pronounce your name. Camper Veins?
Camper Veins,
So the Camper Veins have talked about the power of creating a family vision. They talked about the power of like, our history and our roots and our legacy and like where we've come from and where we're going, and that sense of belonging that it provides families. We've talked about some of the things that they do in their family brand that makes such a difference for them. And I love the can for veins, not the can't for veins.
Yes.
One of the things that reminded me of is, again, for those families watching this that are feeling inspired to say, man, I want to start working on our family brand now. So I'll give you a couple of things that we have found that make a difference for us and some of the families we've helped. We help families create their mission, their vision, and their values. But we believe that instead of just saying, because at one time as the Smith family, we said our mission is, and we would say our mission, which is you can be who you want to be. We've changed that though to then instead of saying our mission is, we started with we believe.
Yeah.
Like we collectively, we believe you can be who you want to be. And so for anyone out there that wants to start, and then for our vision, instead of saying our vision is, as a family, we say we are committed to. And it's just kind of this like language, that we are committed to elevate and inspire is our vision.
But language is important.
Yeah. And then the one thing on the values that was really fun for us is, again, we used to say our values are, we'd go through our values. And now we found that there's real power in linking our name to each value. Smith can do hard things. Smith talk about anything without judgment. Smith. And so like Camper Veins can. Camper Veins love. It's like there's just this power in our family names because it's an identity, it's a brand.
It's so powerful, and we want them to identify strongly with that and to be rooted by that identity, no matter what's happening around them, right?
Totally.
And especially in times of transition. So in life, just like in dancing, I love dancing. The transitions are where it's easy to lose your footing, right? So when you're transitioning to middle school, to high school, when you're going to away to college, when you graduate from college. That is an underestimated transition. And being a professor, I watch people flounder so much after leaving college. And for the first time, they don't have all their friends sort of embedded in what they're supposed to go and do every day. And it's a really big transition. So having that grounding, being grounded in a good way in your identity, carries you much more effortlessly
Totally.
through those transitions. And just knowing that you always have a safe base to return to. That's what we want to be for our children, a safe base, because from when people have a safe base, they feel empowered and free to explore and
Yeah.
to fail and make mistakes. And Jair loves to tell the kids, like, I want you to fail epically. I want
at
you
least
to
have the courage to fail epically.
Yes.
Because if you have that courage, you can't fail.
Exactly.
I don't think you can.
Hey, there's another, I can't help myself. There's another family value. Camper Banes fail epically.
We have the courage to fail.
Camper Banes have the courage to fail epically.
Because then you have the courage to live your life.
Yeah.
Authentically. You have the courage to live your truth. You know, I recently talked about openly, publicly, something that I never talked about before, which is how difficult it was for me to be the first woman of color in history to be hired in the tenure track, on the tenure track in the school that I started in at USC, and how I had 3 babies in 5 years on the tenure track, and received the message every single day that I couldn't be a serious scientist if I were having so many babies, and did not get to experience the beauty of pregnancy in the way that I always believed and hoped that I would. And we still made it beautiful, but I went through so much at the same time. And that's part of, I'm supposed to share that at the point that I can share that, right? You can't totally be going through it. You have to be able to speak from what is Brene Brown, the scar and not the wound of the experience, so that you can speak in a way that's actually there to help people, not to complain, right? To create change. Yeah. That's the point, to create change for the women, especially the women of color coming up after me, to say you can have the family and the career of your dreams. And I always say it's an act of rebellion as a woman to have both the career and the family of your dreams. And I am willing to be rebellious, and I am willing to support other women in being rebellious. It has to be a revolutionary act. And so to having the courage to fail epically is the only way you get to live your life on your terms, the way you have always envisioned for yourself. Because if you don't have the courage to fail epically, then you're just doing what's expected of you.
Totally. And that you're right. Like when you said earlier, like our children can't take us to college with them. They can't take us into their first job. They can't take us into their first business they start, but they can take the sense of belonging. They can take like they're faced with a decision, and they're like, well, do I go for this? Is it too risky? And then they're like, oh yeah, like Camper Banes have the courage to fail ethically.
Yeah.
Like, can I? Oh yeah, Camper Banes can. It's like, that's like that thing of that sense of belonging and who they are and their identity. Yeah. So you guys have been amazing. You guys are the first couple we've had on, and I've loved having the two of you on. It's been amazing.
It's been so fun. We've loved it. We're so excited about what you're doing. Obviously, we want to
can't wait to check it out.
Follow you closely, participate, support you in any way that we can. And just, for everyone who's listening, I want to remind you to be so deliberate about the life that you're creating for yourself. And that includes being deliberate about your biological clock and your fertility, about pregnancy and whom you're having your babies with, because that can either be bliss or that can be hell. And I want it to be bliss for you. And then being deliberate about the life that you're creating for your family. And you're creating that life and that health that you and your family will have long before you ever get pregnant. And so don't forget that. That is such an important thing that people don't talk about. And I always say that the work that we do in the Primester to create this intergenerational domino of good health and well-being is the highest form of contribution to society and the highest form of activism available to us on the planet, because we're contributing to the state and the soul, not just of our families for generations to come, but to the planet more broadly. It's so, so important. Don't underestimate how important and precious and valuable your uterus is, and you know, especially for women, obviously. Yeah.
Well, and the thing I love about what you're saying there is like that intentionality to the very thing you're talking about, bringing life into this world, it becomes part of a family's brand and culture. Intentionally or unintentionally, it does. Like so it's amazing.
Yeah. What and you don't have had to have planned your pregnancy to be intentional. Start where you are. If you are planning your pregnancy, then be intentional starting in the trimester for sure, because that window is a powerful window of opportunity. But if you didn't plan your pregnancy and you wake up one day with a surprise, start there where you are. You can still be creating epigenetic change, especially early in the pregnancy, but throughout the pregnancy and up until the first 3 and 7 years of life are so, so important.
Yeah, the thing I love about that is, like, we've talked about this, the same with the family visioning, you know, it's like, hey, it's May. If you haven't done a family vision, do one now. Yeah. Like we, you know, like I love that Chinese proverb, the best time to plant a tree was today, 20 years ago, the second best time is now. Yeah. We've taken empty nesters through the family brand process that have re-enrolled their grown kids who are out of the house into it. I mean, brilliant. So there's never too late to be intentional in anything in your life. So Jair and Dr. Cleopatra, where can our community find out more about you guys?
We are at fertilitypregnancy.org. And for anybody who's planning to have a baby in the near or distant future, we have an awesome fertility checklist at fertilitypregnancy.org. So just go there and grab it. You will love it, and it will help you on your way to be intentional about creating your super baby.
It's amazing. Well, we've had a lot of likes, comments, shares. And so for those of you who have enjoyed this interview, just like all the amazing guests we've had on, if you go to Facebook and go to the Family Brand public page and like that, that's where we give updates about the upcoming interviews. The other thing is you can go on Facebook and just type in the search Family Brand Community, and you can join our free Facebook group, and we're very active in there. And then we have a gift for you. We have a course that we've created for families. It's not the flagship course yet. That one's coming, but it's a really cool course that we created for families. Jared and Dr. Cleopatra, thank you again. Like the last thing I'll say is that, you know, the reason why we've created Family Brand is to help families like plant their family's flag, like really like a declaration, like this is who we are as a family. But if you really want to know the scheme behind Family Brand, right? The scheme, it's a good scheme. It's like we secretly want to get into homes and families through Family Brand with the sole purpose of having two things happen. Every individual in that family loves themselves. And every individual in that family recognizes that they're a powerful creator that can create anything. If that's the only thing that comes out of someone building their culture, their mission, vision, values, and the experiences is those two things, then we feel like we've accomplished our mission, and you guys have certainly helped us today. So thank you for being on.
We're all about that. We love it so much. It's been so fun. Thanks all of you for being here with us today. Thanks, Chris, for having us.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, thanks everybody.